Do you want to know how to flip houses successfully? I'm sure you've seen the shows, flip this house, flip that house, etc. So many of those shows. So exciting. Someone buys a house, they fix it up, that's kind of fun, and then they sell it and they make a big fat profit, right? Looks easy. Well, it's not impossible, but it is not nearly as easy as it appears on TV. As they say, don't try this at home, kids, at least not without knowing what you're doing. So the keys to successful house flipping, number one, you got to buy the house at the right price. And the right price is buying it at a discount of 30 to 40% off of its retail value minus the fix-up cost. So just for example, give you easy math. If you had a house that was worth $400,000 fixed up, kind of average house in America today, and let's say that the house is in pretty bad condition, needs $100,000 worth of fix-up. Step one, you need to buy that house for about 70% of its after repaired value. So 70% of $400,000 is $280,000. And then you need to deduct the fix-up cost. That's $100,000. So your ideal purchase price would be $180,000. Now, could you go a little bit above that? Yes. Could you ideally go below that? Yes, even better. And I know that may seem like a really cheap price for the house. You may say, well, why can't I just buy it for like $350,000 or something like that, or $250, and then spend $100 fixing it up and make $50? Well, the point is you won't make $50, because by the time you're done paying a realtor's commission, your interest costs, the taxes while you own it, and let's not forget accounting for overruns on construction costs, which are very common. Matter of fact, I've never been involved with a construction project where it hasn't gone over budget for some reason. Oftentimes you just find something additional that needs to be done, or you decide you want to do something additional, so your original budget doesn't turn out to be quite enough. So that's very typical. So you need to make sure that you build a good margin in. And again, the margin is 30 to 40% less than retail, and then deduct the fix-up cost from that, because that will protect you. Now, how do you find houses that cheap? Well, that is truly the trick in this business. You're not going to find them through realtors. Realtors are a retail outlet. That would be like trying to go to a high-end store like Nordstrom's or Saks or something like that and buy like you're at TJ Maxx, or even just a junk store. The realtors do not have these houses for you. The houses are found in a couple of places. One, people do very large marketing programs to what they call motivated sellers. These are sellers that are maybe facing a foreclosure, sellers that are going through a nasty divorce, vacant properties that have been sitting abandoned for a long time that nobody wants anymore. So they do a very large program, meaning they do a lot of direct mail. They field calls, and some of those people will sell their houses at the right price. That's one option. What I did was I was buying at foreclosure auctions. I bought at both mortgage foreclosure auctions and tax foreclosure auctions. And at the auctions, you can often find houses cheap enough to flip. And remember, our target price is 60 to 70% of retail minus whatever it's going to cost us to fix up. So at the auction, you go to the auction, you raise your hand. If you win the bid, you put down your money, sometimes right at that moment, sometimes same day. Different auctions have different methods of payment, but it's always a cash equivalent. So it could be a bank check, which is today's equivalent of a certified check. You may be ACHing or wiring funds in. You might be bringing cash. But those things, that's a very important fact, because in order to buy at those auctions, you need access to cash. These are not the kind of things you can get a traditional mortgage, because at the auction, there's just not time to hold a regular settlement. You don't have title to the property yet. So no conventional lender is going to lend into that situation. The lenders that will sometimes lend into that situation are people that are called hard money lenders. Those are people that lend on the value of the property. Even they're tough. You're going to have to build a relationship, because there are risks inherent to any mortgage foreclosure or tax foreclosure auction. Remember, you're taking someone's house in a contested way. They're not signing it over to you. It's being seized by the government and then sold. The sellers, or the former owners at that point, sometimes fight those auctions and they try to overturn them. So you have to be prepared for that. Often you have to do something called quiet title actions, that has to do with tax sales. And sometimes the owners come back and try to fight it, so you need to be prepared for that. Also, sometimes they file bankruptcy after the sale, and that can undo the sale, and your money can get stuck in litigation for a while. So I would say that the foreclosure auctions, like I used to do, are very good ways to acquire properties at a good discount, but they're not without their headaches. You need to be prepared for some legal battles. You need to be prepared for some litigation and some delays if it happens. That's one of the reasons we want to buy so cheaply. You don't want to buy it 90% of retail and then take that risk that you may have litigation, you may have a contested matter. For that matter, you may have a lien that shows up that says there's a technical problem and they're not wiped off the property, like for example, they weren't notified. You can also, with foreclosure sales, especially mortgage foreclosures and sometimes tax foreclosures, you can also be in a situation where all the liens are not stripped away from the property at the sale. Like for example, in a mortgage foreclosure, you could have a second lien foreclosing, meaning not the first mortgage, but a lien that is lower in priority. And that means they don't divest that first mortgage, meaning it comes with the first mortgage. So the point of all this, not to get too deep down the rabbit hole, is that if you're going to be buying at the foreclosure auctions, whether it's tax or mortgage foreclosure, you need to get some really good advice. You need to work with an attorney who knows what they're doing. You need to go and observe those sales, and you really need to get into the details of it to make sure that you know that you're going to get free and clear title, and you need to be prepared in case there is litigation or arguments over it. Because again, you're taking away a property at a forced sale. So for me, the way this came out is that I ended up doing the overages business instead of the foreclosure business, because in the overages business, what we're doing is a property sells. Say it's this $400,000 property that sells for $180,000. Well, they may have only owed, especially a tax sale, $40,000 or $50,000. And if you owed $50,000 and your house sold for $180,000, well, the difference between the $50,000 you owed and the $180,000 that the property sold for, that is called overage. Sometimes they're called overbids or excess funds. What they are is money that's left over that wasn't needed to pay the debt that was foreclosing, and that money is available for the former owner to claim. Now they need to go claim it, but that is available for them. And the overages business is where we find out about that money, we locate the people that are eligible to claim the money, and then we go and get the money for them for a percentage of what we recover, if anything. I like it better because you don't get into this contested matters with former owners. You're not sort of taking a house away from someone that needs it and is really attached to it. Instead, you're getting them some money to get their life started over again. So I like that better. If you want to know more about that, I do teach that business. That we'll put a link down below in the description so that you can get more information if you want. I have a presentation that gives you all the details on it. But back to your house flipping business. So with house flipping, it is a fun and exciting business. I think it's a hard business because first of all, it's hard to find houses cheap enough. If you're buying them for 60 or 70% after repaired value, minus your fix-up cost, that is not the easiest thing to do. It is possible to do, it is doable, but it takes a lot of effort. You don't just waltz into a realtor's office, look at some properties and buy one. That's not gonna work. And one of the mistakes I see new people make is that sometimes they get frustrated because they're not finding anything and they just buy something because I have to do a deal. Really tough. The other thing I want to share with you, the time that house flipping works and works well is in a quickly rising market. Now this is very, very tricky. When the market is going up, you can buy it 20% off retail, and as you own it, the property goes up, and as you repair it, property goes up, and then typically you can make a lot of money. The problem is that people, when they do that, you don't know when the market's going to slow down or even reverse course and drop a little bit. And as soon as that happens, if you're stuck with a bunch of inventory, you're in deep trouble at that point. So I see the house flipping as a better play in a market where the market is generally rising. Like just for example, if you're in a fast growing city, one history that you would know about, Boise, Idaho, Austin, Texas, cities like that have been growing, well, that inflow of population causes the pricing of houses to go up because you basically have a fixed number of houses. I mean, they can be built, but they're not built that quickly. So you basically have a fixed number of houses. If you have a bunch of people moving in, well, the price of existing houses goes up. Simple supply and demand. So if you're in a market like that, I think house flipping is something good to look at. I think if you're in a flat market, like I used to operate in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, it's harder to do. It's doable. But there you're looking around margins. I would look for neighborhoods that were coming up because there'd always be some neighborhoods that were coming up, other neighborhoods that were going down. You might want to locate and do business in one of those. That worked for me, but it's much harder in that kind of a market. And certainly in a declining market, forget it. Don't touch those. If you're in a declining market, it is not the time to fix and flip. That may be the time to buy places to rent, probably the time to just look at a different market or do a different strategy, because in a falling market, you don't want to be buying at today's price when tomorrow it's going to be cheaper. That makes no sense at all. And it's very hard to make a business work with that. So that's my advice on house flipping. So just some key highlights. Number one, buy cheaply. 30 to 40% off retail minus fix up. Number two, be prepared for headaches and problems. Know that they're going to come, especially if you're buying in a forced situation. If you're buying before the sale from the owner, you won't have that problem. and that's a much cleaner way to do it. But very tough to get someone to sell you their house for 30 or 40% of its retail value minus fix-up, because they're leaving a lot of money on the table. So that's a tough thing to do. The other thing I found with people that are facing foreclosure is often they just want to stay in the house and they really don't want to sell you their house, and that makes it tough to make a deal with them. And I never really had the heart to just sort of grab their house and pay them much less. I thought, just go to a realtor. It's one of the reasons I like Overages, because we are helping them that way. So that's the news for today. Hope this was helpful. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to know more about Overages, just go to the link down below. Or go to the site you see on your screen and you can see more about that. Bob Diamond, over and out for now. May all the best be with you.